What's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, here for TBL Live, and this is our post-fight reaction to Canelo and Charlo. Wow, man, we got a lot to cook on tonight. We got a lot to cook on, man. Very interesting fight, I'll say that. But before we get into it, let me just shout out you. Obviously, of course, my father is here in the building. Shout out to everybody in the comments that will arrive. We've got a couple of people here already. Big up iBoxing Hub. He says, I'm excited for this one. We've got Michael Maxwell. He says, good evening, Boxing Lowdown family. Good evening to you as well. Anybody that joins, obviously, feel free to hit the like button on the way in. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And drop a comment and let us know your thoughts during the stream. I'll happily get to it if I'm able to. Big up Francisco as well here in the building. Now, last night, we had Canelo and Charlo. Undisputed versus undisputed. Super middleweight titles were on the line. Jamel Charlo moving up 2 weights to take on Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, very disappointing performance, in my opinion, from Jamel Charlo. Not just my opinion, everyone's really. Went in there, laid an egg. You know, went out there from the first round. Straight away from the first round, Canelo applied the pressure, wasn't worried about what was coming back to him. Was beating Jamel Charlo at will, landed what he wanted to land, knocked him down in the 7th, took him the distance. You know, Jamel Charlo lasted the distance. But yeah, all in all, a pretty easy, one-sided decision victory for Canelo in this one. A lot of comparisons to the Callum Smith bout, where Canelo really just had his own way. Charlo was really in there just to survive, didn't do anything to try and win it. And he's been receiving a lot of criticism online as a result of his performance. Big up Himanshu in the building. But Dad, I just want to get your thoughts on the showdown, man, and I'll follow up what you have to say. But all in all, very disappointed in Jamel Charlo.
That's an understatement. And I just want to pick you up on something that you said at the top of your show there in the introductions when you said fight. What fight was that? Did a fight break out? I didn't see a fight.
No.
I mean, and the second thing I want to say is Jamel Charlo and his brother, Jamal Charlo, they need to change that lions only to kittens only. Because seriously, they're not deserving of that name. We had the brother, Jamal Charlo, about a month back. He got slapped the shit out of by Caleb Plant. He did nothing. And yesterday, we had the brother, Jamel. That was the walking equivalent of his brother getting slapped and not doing nothing. All the man did was run around the ring. I'd like to know who was his chief sparring partner for that fight. Was that Mo Farah or what? Because the guy did so much running. Seriously. It was an absolute disgrace. But you know what, Daryl? What did I tell everybody when we did the show? And I would invite people watching this to go back and watch our preview show when I described what I thought was going to happen. And I was pretty much 100% accurate. I was bothered from the moment this fight was announced. The energy of Jamel Charlo was completely out of character with the person that we've known him to be, right? And don't get me wrong, he's not got a very nice character. As I said in the preview show, he's a pretty dislikable person, in my opinion. However, and some people have said that maybe that's what makes him such a good fighter, because, you know, he's got a certain attitude and certain narcissism about him that maybe that transpires to make him a good fighter. But in the lead up to this fight, when all I saw him do was show Canelo respect, shaking hands, tell him how much skills he's got and all that, I thought to myself, this guy's not coming to win. And that's exactly what happened. Like you said, the first round, as soon as I saw the first round, Daryl, I thought, yeah, as soon as I saw the man running around the ring, I thought, when have you ever seen Charlo do that? I just thought, this man's not here to win. And it's interesting, in the post-fight stuff, you saw the tweet from Terence Crawford, absolutely spot on. You should be ashamed of yourself. You didn't try to win. And even when you did, even on the odd occasion, when you did throw a punch and get Canelo's attention, you were almost apologetic. You didn't follow up with none of your shots. There was no conviction in your work. You know what I mean? The only thing you could say for him is that he went the distance. And it's interesting because when John Ryder fought Canelo, as usual, Charlo came out of his box criticising Ryder, saying that he was only there to lose. John Ryder was way better than him.
Yeah.
Performance that he put up. John Ryder put up a much better performance than Canelo. And this is the other thing as well. I heard one or two people saying that Canelo looked good. He didn't look that good, bro. It's the same Canelo. It's just that Charlo didn't do anything. John Ryder put up a better performance than Charlo last night. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that really just disappointed, I was already disappointed because number one, for us over here in the UK, all you guys can relate. Big up Stefan, I see you, bro. He says good evening to everyone. Good evening to you as well. And Stefan, this point that I bring up, you're going to relate to it because I saw your tweet on it as well. But, you know, over here in the UK, we're staying up 5 a.m., 5:30, you know, half asleep watching this whole show. The DAZN stream is cutting out and all that crap.
Oh, that was terrible, bro. Yeah.
And you go out there and you lay an egg. So the whole day now, today, I've been in and out of sleep. I've been tired. I've been like flipping hell, man, trying to get ready for work on Monday. I feel like I've lost a day. And for what? To see that sort of performance. And what really got me upset was Charlo's interview afterwards, where he was like, yeah, you know, he knocked those other guys out. He knocked those out. He didn't knock me out. And he was like, oh, so that's what you were here for then, just to survive. I really lost some respect for Charlo that night, man. And one thing I will say as well that you've always said, and you brought it up before, I'm going to bring it up again. His energy really, like, some people were like, nah, give him credit. He's turning over a new leaf. He's being mature. He's doing this. With Tony Harrison, with Adrian Broner, with these other guys, I see the way how you act around them. Do you know what I mean? I see his attitude and, you know, how malicious he can be with what he says and everything else. And this whole thing with Canelo, man, it was a bit odd to me because I'm like, this is not really his character. This is not what I know Jermell Charlo to be like. And we saw that in the ring last night. You went out there and you laid the egg. You wanted to survive. You didn't really try to win. Like, from the first round, I knew it was over. I was like, nah, Canelo's getting close to him already. He's whacking the body. Charlo's not bothering him with any punches. This fight is over. I knew that after the first round.
Yeah, from the first round, it was obvious. I'm surprised that he didn't ask Canelo for a selfie after the fight, seriously, because, you know what I mean? He was just happy to be in the presence of Canelo and pick up what, let's face it, would have been a massive paycheck. And you said what you said about the stream there, I was staying up late. Let's spare a thought for our friends across the water. They had to pay big money for that fight last night, at least us over here. If you subscribe to the DAZN, then you didn't have to pay extra for it. I mean, I would have been, mind you, I did say on the preview show that I wouldn't pay for it because I knew this was going to happen though. Whenever you get a guy acting out of character like that, you know what I mean? He's the so-called bad man, you know what I mean? Always running his mouth, always in people's faces, always confrontational, always indignant about things, right? And then you get him and he's so well behaved. That tells you, man, that mentally he doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't believe he can beat Canelo. And then afterwards he's talking about the weight and all that. Oh, stop it, bro. You laid an egg, a big fat egg as well. You should be, as Terence Crawford, everything that Terence Crawford said was right. You should be ashamed of yourself with that performance.
Yeah. What was this all for? You know, you had the reputation at 154. Big up Muhammad. You're at 154, undisputed champion. You know, you were in the pound for pound rankings. You know, maybe he's still there. I don't know, but whatever. We'll talk about that another day. You had the good reputation there as the king of 154. You left your throne. You left your kingdom to go up needlessly. No one was calling for this. No one was asking for it. You needlessly went up 2 weights to fight Canelo in a fight where we know the script with these sort of situations where a good big man always beats a good small man. That tends to be the common saying in boxing, barring a few, obviously, examples. But normally, a good big man will tend to beat a good small man. And most of us didn't fall for this. We kind of knew what was going to happen regardless. There were not many people picking Charlo to win this. So you left 154 where you had lucrative fights around. You had Tim Tszyu. Not saying that would have been as much as Canelo, but you had Tim Tszyu there. That would have been a lucrative fight. You had Terence Crawford just defeated Errol Spence. People were calling to see Charlo and Crawford. That was the logical step, particularly with you being a stablemate and good friend of Errol Spence. It made all the sense in the world. Canelo, nobody was even asking for that. Nobody was calling for that fight. People want to see Canelo fight Benavidez or Morel or Bivol rematch or whatever. No one was calling for Jermell Charlo. But you've gone out there, you've won the payday, because that's what it is. You've won the payday, and now you go out there and you lay an egg, and what for what? Your reputation now is like, he's taken a real hit on social media over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, deservedly so. And the minute you heard him talking straight after the fight about, he didn't even like appraise this performance. He's talking about Terence Crawford. For number one, Terence Crawford will annihilate this version of Jermell Charlo. And secondly, as I said in the preview show, Daryl, the mere fact that you are talking about you're going straight back down after the fight tells me that you don't believe that you were going to win. You know what I mean? The going back to 154 is basically a safety net because you know you're not going to beat Canelo. And the thing is, right, I knew you weren't going to win. I just knew you weren't going to win. But at least put some effort in, bro. You know what I mean? All the running around. What was that for? As soon as the fight started, this man was running around the ring like he was running track. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to win the fight like that. Derek James was in the corner, imploring him, let your hands go. He was saying, he's tired, right? And he just sat there and he had this vacant look in his eyes as well. He kept looking up at the thing as well. Obviously, he was counting down the rounds. Did you notice that? Mm-hmm. In between the rounds, right? He was looking up at the screen. Oh, yeah, round 6. Oh, yeah, right. Well, round 7. Oh, yeah. And I've only got a few more rounds to go until the fight's over. It was a terrible performance. And the thing is, right, is that even though I don't like Jermell Charlo, right, and even though I knew you weren't going to win, I still expected him to do better than that. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like with John Ryder, he surpassed expectation because we all knew that Ryder was going to lose. But when you assess his effort and his performance, he gave of himself. So you know what? You had to say, at the end of the day, we knew Ryder weren't going to beat Canelo. There's levels to this. But you know what? Fair play to Ryder. He went out there. He gave of his best. He got dropped by a heavy shot. He got up and he fought back. In fact, he inflicted some facial damage on Canelo. Something that Charlo never did, never looked like coming close to doing yesterday. You know what I mean? Charlo's a disgrace. I mean, dare I say it, if it was over here, people would be asking for his purse to be withheld on that. How can you fight for a world title and put in a performance like that? Running around the ring. Oh, come on, man. You know what I mean? It was worse than what I predicted. Worse than what I predicted, a poor performance, because I knew mentally that he weren't there, Daryl. Have you ever been, you must have experienced this, where you get like these so-called guys that classify themselves as bad man, yeah? And you're in a certain environment, and then you take them out of that environment, they're somewhere else, not familiar to them, and all the bravado, all the energy that they used to exude as bad man, all of a sudden, whoop, energy levels drop. They're like a lamb. So that's why I'm saying, man, he needs to change that lines only to kittens only, because him and his brother, the way they've carried on in the last couple of months, they're not lions, they're kittens.
I thought it was quite strange as well. Big up to Ian Hamilton, I see you, bro. I thought it was quite strange as well. Like, the camera panned to Jermell Charlo during the fight. So this was in between rounds of your brother getting a pasting from Canelo. I'm seeing Jermell Charlo, yeah, man, look at me, man, like all that. I'm just like, bro, your brother's getting a beating. And then I saw on his story today, his Instagram story, you know, he's taking pictures with Terence Crawford. And I'm just like, ain't that supposed to be the op? You know what I mean? He's like, he could be, your brother could be fighting him next. It's very strange, them two are.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago where the two of them were getting each other's wives to fight against each other. Remember that?
Strange.
They're a strange couple, man, seriously. And even, I don't know if you saw, well, you must have saw it because it was in the lead up to the fight. When Jermell Charlo went into Jermell's dressing room and they were so-called embracing, they weren't even looking into each other's eyes. So you could tell that was just for the cameras. Jermell Charlo was looking ahead. He wasn't even really interested in the embrace. Listen, man. But anyway, he needs to have some of that purse withheld, man, because he did not put in an effort last night. Like Terence Crawford said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You know what I mean? Your only intention in that fight was to go the distance so that you could say, oh, he didn't knock me out. But guess what? Canelo's not knocked out his last 3 or 4 opponents anyway. So, you know what I mean? And when John Ryder fought Canelo, Jamel Charlo was critical of John Ryder. And he put in a way better performance than you did, Mr. Charlo.
Yes, Thursday. Charlo did a good impersonation of Paul Butler against Danua. Yeah, he did. I have to say that really rubbed me up the wrong way when you said that at the end. Because not only I'm already pissed off the fact that I've had to sit through and watch that. And I'm not putting any blame on Canelo, by the way. I'm just saying I was pissed
off. You have to put blame on Canelo because he picked him. You know what I mean?
I'm not putting blame on Canelo for how that ended, for how the fight went. He tried to make the fight. You know what I mean? I'm putting blame on Charlo for his performance. What I'm saying is that I'm already pissed off after sitting through that at 5:30, 6 in the morning. And then for you to come out and say, well, you know, I didn't get knocked out. Oh, well, I didn't get knocked. I'm just like, bro, what is this, man? What was this about? Like, what was this whole event about, man? Because I feel I didn't pay for it, but I feel robbed. That's how I felt. I didn't actually pay for the event.
In a post-fight interview with Canelo, the interview asked him, now I think Canelo kept repeating the mantra, this version of Canelo beats anybody, anyone next. And so the guy said to him, what about David Benavidez? Oh, anyone. Like, the guy asked you a specific question and you're still not answering the question. Personally, I mean, listen, Canelo well won. I mean, I only gave Charlo 1 round. I think it was the 9th. And even then, I was being kind by giving him that 9th round. But I thought Canelo looked decent. I didn't think he looked that great because I'll tell you something else. If that last night was the Canelo of even 3-4 years ago, Charlo does not make it to the end of that fight.
Yeah.
Because after he took him in the 7th, I fully expected Canelo to go on and finish him off. But
I'm not going to be critical of Canelo because it's hard to look good against someone so negative, you know?
No, but you have to give Canelo some criticism because he wasn't the one who selected that opponent, though. So it starts with him, really, doesn't it?
Well, you say that, but I don't like. Look, he was supposed to fight Jamal Charlo, right? Jamal Charlo didn't step up to the plate, so Jamel stepped in. It's not like Canelo handpicked Jamel. He was supposed to fight.
He did handpick him, though. He did.
No, he just took the fight. I'm not like. I see where you're going. Let's not blame. Like, I'm not even looking to blame. I'm going at Charlo tonight. Like, it's Charlo that had made it like this. Because for me, if you got the fight, you got what you wanted, you were calling him out, and then you get in the ring and you lay an egg. Like, you know, it was just very disappointing for me, man. Like,
yeah, it was disappointing. All right, I'll tell you why Canelo deserves some stick for this, because it's a cynical exploitation of the fans, right? So if you're Canelo, the face of boxing, right, he knows he can go out there and fight anyone, right? So what he's cynically done is he's choosing guys that he knows he's going to beat, knowing that the crowd are going to go with him anyway. So he could easily have fought David Benavidez, a fight that we should have had by now, because this been rumbling on for ages. He could have fought David Morrell. He could have fought, there's an African-French guy out there that a lot of people are talking about, Christian Mbili. He's in the world rankings. He looks really good. He could have fought a number of guys, but you fight a guy that's 2 weight divisions below you. No one wanted to see that fight. There was no one calling for that fight. Canelo chose it. Obviously, Charlo accepted it because he's thinking, yeah, man, I'll probably get between 5 and 10 million for this fight. So you can see why Charlo would have taken it. He knows he's going to lose. He's thinking, as long as I don't get beat up too bad, I'll drop back down to 154 after. So what I'm saying, Daryl, yes, Charlo laid an egg. He should be ashamed of his performance, but you have to pull it back and say, well, how did this fight get made in the first place? And at that point, that is where Canelo has to accept his fair share of the blame.
Big up to iBoxing Hub. I see you in the building, bro. Stefan says here, Canelo won't go anywhere near the Benavidez or Morrell fights, in my opinion. He will probably fight the other Charlo, and he always deflects when he's asked about Benavidez in particular. Did you see his excuses for the Bivol loss?
Yeah, pathetic. And he's saying no one beats this version of Canelo. That's what he said last night. Well, fight, get the rematch then, because Bivol's there and waiting. He said he'll come down to 168 to accommodate you. You know what I mean? Benavidez been calling for the fight. Demetrius Andre's been loads of people who want the fight. You know what I mean? So there's no excuses. So for you to make that fight in the first place tells me that you're not really seeking out the best challenges. He's got a free fight deal with a PBC. And I think all he's going to, it wouldn't be surprised me if he fights Adrian Broner next in a catchweight. Don't be surprised. You know what I mean? Seriously. And then people say, yeah, you know, but at least he's active. At least he's fighting. The other guys ain't fighting. He's the face of boxing. He can do what he wants. And he does do what he wants, quite clearly.
Francisco says here, Benavidez versus Andrade is supposed to happen in November. Yeah, I think it's November 25th. He says, very good fight. The winner will be Canelo's mandatory. Yeah, I mean, Benavidez has been Canelo's mandatory for, he's been his mandatory, right? For how long? Yeah. Or was he just number one contender?
I think the WBC have declared that Canelo has to fight in sometime in 2024, but we'll see how that goes because Canelo will do what he wants to do. If he doesn't want to accept that mandatory, he will find somebody else to, and they will become a mandatory. Bit like what he did with, remember the Avni Yildirim fast? When Canelo basically contacted the WBC and said, yeah, make Avni Yildirim a mandatory. Avni Yildirim, by the way, was a sparring partner of his before. So obviously somebody he knew he could beat up. Absolute farce what's going on, man. You know what I mean? But, you know, like I said, he's the so-called face of boxing. He sells the most tickets and the most pay-per-views. So he decides what he wants to do, against whom and when.
I've got another question for you, but I'll read these couple of comments out first. Mohammed here says, Canelo versus Yildirim 2 is the fight to make. Ian says here, I'll say it again. I just love it when Laurie exposes Canelo. He was the first one that was on it. I got to give him credit, man. Keep it up, the knowledge. I've got a question for you, Dad, man. A couple of weeks ago, there were, you know, talks about Terence Crawford potentially moving up 3 weight divisions, not 2, 3 weight divisions to fight Canelo. And you, to my surprise, basically said, you know, that's not as bad as a fight as some are making out to be. Do you still have that opinion after last night, seeing how easily Canelo just walked through Jermell Charlo? Is that a fight you would still entertain? Because I was against it then, and I'm against it now. I think it's a ridiculous shout, and I don't think that they should be even talking about it. But I see some of these Twitter blogs and everyone else for the engagement tweeting, oh yeah, who wins out of Canelo and Crawford? I'm just like, have we not learned anything from last night? So let me just hear your thoughts on it. Do you still entertain that fight?
It's not that I entertain it. It's just that I think that I think I said at the time, though, the way I was quantifying that is that what I was basically saying is Crawford would put up a way better fight than some of the other guys that Canelo has fought. He definitely would have put up a better fight. See, the difference between Crawford is he has a totally different mindset to Kittens only. Totally different. He would have gone in there and he would have tried to win. I'm not saying he would have won, because I do believe that the weight difference is too much. But you put Crawford in there last night, he would have won rounds, he would have tried to win, and even if he got knocked out, he would have went out on his shield. I would have been completely surprised, shocked even, if Crawford was to go in there and lay an egg like these other guys have done. A lot of these guys that go in there with Canelo, I said it in the preview show, the likes of your Callum Smiths, your Rocky Fielding, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, and now add Charlo to that list as well. They're mentally beaten before the first belt. They look across the ring and they think, wow, they're in awe of the guy. You're not going to beat a guy like that. At least with Crawford, he would go in there knowing that he's got the skills to beat Canelo. Would he have the punching power and the strength and all the other stuff that goes with it? Would he get a decision on the cards? Probably not. So I probably wouldn't want to see that fight. But I think that was my rationale behind me saying that. I don't necessarily want to see the fight, but I firmly believe that the mindset of Terence Crawford is completely different to these guys.
So let's just briefly discuss the options for both men. Then we'll start off with Canelo, then we'll move on to Charlo. So as we said, you know, we spoke about who we want to see Canelo fight. Obviously, Benavidez and Andrade are fighting in November. There is David Morrell out there. There is the Dmitry Bivol rematch out there. iBoxing Hub said he'd like to see Canelo fight Artur Beterbiev. So yeah, Canelo, as always, he'll have a lot of options there, and he can do what he wants. You know what I mean? But if we're being realistic, he's with Premier Boxing Champions. He's got 2 more fights under that contract. So that leaves the likes of a Jamal Charlo to avenge the loss of his brother. You know, I could see that storyline. Or, you know, there could be David Benavidez. There could be, you know, whoever. Morel, he's under the PBC banner. But what would you like to... It's a stupid question because I know what your answer is going to be because I know what mine is. But I'm guessing Benavidez is the one that, you know, you want. Or do you want to see Crawford versus Charlo? Ian says he wants
I'd rather see him fight another super middleweight, though. I want to see...
Sorry, Ian, you said Crawford versus Charlo. Yeah, we'll talk about that because that is what I want. But yeah, carry on.
I want to see him fight a legitimate super middleweight. David Morrell or David Benavidez. My preference is for David Benavidez. If he's not going to fight those two, there's a rising young star called Christian Mbile that I've been watching quite a bit of recently. He looks a potential star, but he's not known enough, so he probably wouldn't get the fight. But definitely Benavidez or Morrell. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, you mentioned Jamal Charlo. I don't know if you heard, but I think it's been announced that he's going to fight
Jose Benavidez.
If you remember, Terence Crawford stopped him as a welterweight. All of a sudden now, the man's gone up to middleweight to fight Jamal Charlo. But I mean, Jamal Charlo's been out there, well, by the time they fight, it would have been 2 years. So I guess they're not going to put him in with a killer straight away. But even then, Charlo is past his best and he's had a multitude of problems. And one of those problems, I understand, could be substance abuse. Definitely alcohol's at play. So he's probably well past his best. So maybe a fit, motivated Jose Benavidez could beat him. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that's going to go because it's been so long now since we've seen Jamal Charlo in the ring that we just don't know how he's going to look.
Yeah. Well, speaking about the other Charlo, Ian says, I mean, the potential options for him, he said he wants to go back down to 154. Ian says here, Crawford versus Charlo, that's all we want next, and the build-up will be insane. I agree. That is the fight. That makes sense. But Crawford could be fighting Errol Spence next. Errol Spence, it appears to have activated that rematch clause for that fight, although, you know, we don't know the full details of that yet, and it hasn't been formally announced, but we've heard that Errol Spence has triggered the rematch clause for that contract. So that will leave Charlo with some extra time, maybe to recover or potentially fight Tim Tszyu.
Recover from what?
You know, well, yeah. But like, I mean, what would you like to see Charlo? What would you like to see him do if Crawford does fight Spence next? Would you like to see him potentially wait it out and fight Crawford after that, or maybe have an interim fight? Because you've got to make 154 back safely again. You've just gone up 2
I think it could be done. You know, I think it could be done. I think you could be looking at a fighter.
You think he's done? You think Jamal Charlo?
Yeah, I think he might. I think after last night.
Yeah, I've noticed you've got a pattern for saying that. You know, when a fighter.
Yeah, but I'm looking at certain things. Not, I mean, don't get me wrong. He didn't take a beating yesterday because he didn't fight. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the history of fighters that go up in weight, Daryl, and then they come back down, even the great ones like Roy Jones. Remember what happened to him? Yep. When they go up in weight and they strip that weight and they come back down, invariably it doesn't go well for them. And I'll tell you now, if he goes in with Crawford, he gets stopped.
Charlo?
Yes, 100%. 100% Crawford will take him out, right? And I'll tell you something else. I fancy Tim Tszyu because that would have been a hard fight for him anyway. Tim Tszyu will be looking at that version of Charlo last night and saying, listen, man, bring it on. He was saying that anyway. And Tim Tszyu is one of those dangerous guys, isn't he? He's young, he's hungry. He's at the height of his confidence. He's been calling out Charlo anyway. What do you think he's going to think of that last night? He's probably on the phone to his promoter saying, get me that fight. He looks very beatable, man. You know what I mean? So I don't think the future is that good for Jamal Charlo. And then now his reputation is in tatters. Yes, you accrued a big payday, but you know what? Spend that wisely because I think, you know what I mean, that could be the end or the beginning of the end for it. I really do.
Big up iBoxing Hubby. He says, hit the like button. Yeah, for real, guys. If you're here, hit the like button, man. We're cooking on a Sunday evening. Good to have you all here. Stefan says, Jamel is still world class at 154, and I don't think he took any real punishment. I agree Crawford would beat him, but I don't think he's done. I think Tszyu is a 50-50 fight, but I guess we won't truly know until his next fight, though. So Daniel says here, if Canelo wouldn't take him out, why would Crawford? You know,
because as I keep saying, Canelo's not that guy. Don't be fooled. You know, all these speeches about this version of Canelo beats anyone. If that Charlo of last night was to fight the Canelo of 2 or 3 years ago, he would have got stopped. And what I'm saying to the people watching your show is today, Daryl, is that the difference between Terence Crawford as a finisher, he's the best finisher. Him and Inoue, right? Him and Inoue are the best finishers in boxing right now. When those guys hurt you, they're looking to not just, you know what I mean? Not just knock you out, they're looking to take you out, bro. It's a different in mindset and a different in the way they approach things. Canelo tends to throw one punch at a time. He was doing that yesterday. When people were saying, oh, Canelo looked really good, did he? Did he really? What I would say is that he didn't have to, because he was so far ahead of Charlo in terms of, you know what I mean, what he brought to the table, that he probably didn't have to dig down deep into his tool bag, did he? He didn't have to get out of first gear to beat Charlo, so maybe that's what it was. But I didn't see any material difference between him last night and when he fought Ryder.
I think I have to agree with what you said there earlier. I think that Canelo didn't need to get out of second gear. I just think he was so comfortable, man, in there. Like, from the beginning, like the first round, he just stepped to Charlo, and I just knew. I was just like, this is going to be a long night, man. You lost the first round. You didn't lay an egg. Canelo outlanded you. And even Canelo said in the build-up, he was like, yeah, the first few rounds are going to be a bit hard, but I think... And even they weren't hard. You know, like, he just... Yeah, it was...
You're right, because normally when Canelo fights, he normally loses the first couple of rounds. He barely throws a punch. Oh, it was a farce, man, seriously.
Yeah. I mean, Stefan says here, I can't remember the last Canelo fight that wasn't boring, to be honest.
Like, well, this is what I'm saying. Even last night, that wasn't a good fight. And Canelo was doing a lot of what he was been doing in previous fights, which is that he stalks his opponents, but he's throwing like 1, maybe 2 punches at a time. He's not unloading combinations. He's not showing great footwork. He's not showing great head. Even last night, there was no head movement from Canelo. But then, like I said, there was nothing coming out.
Yeah.
So how can people say, oh, he looked great or he looked really good? He just beat up a guy that didn't want to fight. So you can't really judge him like that. So, you know, you have to credit him in a way, because he scared the shit out of Charlo, you know what I mean? But if we're looking at it from a boxing perspective, did he land any 3, 4, 5 punch combinations? I mean, when you looked at him last night, did you think, wow, man? I mean, I know we're going to talk about it. When you saw Jai Opetaia fight last night, right, and you saw that level of performance, you actually came away from that thinking, wow, this guy looks special. You didn't say that with Canelo. It was just a typical Canelo procession where round after round, his opponent is on the back foot, seemingly uninterested, doesn't want to engage. Canelo throws a couple of body shots, big right hand here and there. It's not exciting to watch. Far from it. Was you excited by that?
No, I mean, I think it was so easy for Canelo. He's just like, you know what, man? Like, it is what it is. But big up Raymond here in the chat. Raymond Hales, big up, bro. He says here, elite fighters have more pride than that, man. I totally agree. He took the money and he felt like he did his best. You know, but I totally agree with that.
No, but he didn't do his best. He didn't. No. I'm not going to have that. He didn't do his best. He tried to go the distance. Like I said, if you look at that fight again, and trust me, I'm not going to be looking at that fight again, but I did notice it. Between rounds, Charlo was looking up at the clock, counting down the rounds mentally. How many times have you seen fighters, right? They're in the corner and they're talking to the trainer, and the fighter will say, what round is it? Because they're so caught up in the action, they forgot how many rounds has gone. This man was looking up at the clock and go, yeah, that's round 4. He's mentally ticking off the rounds in his mind. Then after the fight, the man's there hugging up Canelo. Yeah, man, Canelo's a beast. Please, man. People their money back.
Some more comments here. We'll get through for some of these, man. A lot of thank you to everybody here. There's some questions as well that I want you to answer in here as well. So Daniel White says here, do you think Canelo just cruises a bit when he's way ahead? His chin is solid Has anyone ever really hurt him badly? Now I'll let you answer because I know that one person.
That's one of the things about Canelo that I've always said. He has probably the best chin in boxing, and the reason why I say it's not just because he's never been knocked down or knocked out or whatever. It's because when you look at some of the guys he's fought, some of the big punchers, you know what I mean, and they've not even wobbled him. I mean, I think he got wobbled when he was about 17 by Miguel Cotto's brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in with some big punchers, bro. If you look at his career, I will always give him credit for that. Mm. Your Kovalevs, your Bivals, light heavyweights, you know what I mean? He's been in with Triple G, who was supposed to be a murderous puncher. 24 rounds he did with Triple G. Did you even once see Canelo hurt?
Well, 36.
Sometimes he took
36 with him.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. 36, you're right now. And then Danny Jacobs, he was a big puncher at middleweight. You know what I mean?
Kovalev, another big puncher.
Yeah, Miguel Cotto, you know what I mean? Big puncher. You know what I mean? And no one has even wobbled that guy. Had him even looking unnecessarily flustered. Mm. Floyd beat him by just outboxing and out-slicking him. He kind of beat him up a little bit towards the end because you could see that Canelo didn't know what to do. Mm. He didn't know what to do with Floyd. He was completely bewildered by Floyd's skill and slickness. So in the end, Floyd was kind of teeing off on him. But Floyd was a lot smaller than Canelo even then. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Floyd was never going to stop him. But the man's been in with some serious punches. And like I said, they've not even wobbled him. So how the hell was Charlo going to do that? I heard people saying in the lead up to the fight, oh, Jamel, man, you know, he's got power. Yes, he's got power, but it's not 168 power, and it's not power to trouble elite fighters like Canelo. Mm. That's the difference.
Mm. Raymond says here, Jay Opataya, what a fight. I'm very impressed. I just discovered your channel. You guys are good. Big up yourself, Raymond, man. Subscribe to the channel, bro. We come on here every week. We chop it up, and we got a good community. So, yeah, join our community, bro, and feel free to join in the chat as well. Good to have you here. Question for you, Dad, from Michael Maxwell. He says here, Laurie, where do you rank Canelo amongst the 168 greats? Good question. The elite of the division like Jones, Tony, Ward, Calzaghe all beat him, and maybe a few more. Do you agree with that? Do you think all of those guys beat Canelo? I'm not talking about this Canelo. I'm talking about the Canelo that was closer to his prime.
He's definitely up there. He's definitely up there. Mm. The only thing I would say about Canelo, at 168, I want to see him start taking on some challenges, man. I don't want to see him fighting 154-pounders. I don't want to see manufactured mandatories like John Ryder and people like that, and Abney Yildirim and people like that. I want to see him fight genuine guys that we can see how really good he is.
Well, what about Callum Smith, man? Because when he took on Callum Smith was the unified super middleweight champion. He was the winner of the World Boxing Super Series. You know, we got to give him credit for that. You know,
no, I give him credit for it. It's just that I was disappointed with the way that Callum Smith approached that fight. And listen, if you don't believe me, Callum Smith himself has always gone on record as saying that he didn't do himself justice in that fight.
Yeah, but that's probably what Jermell Charlo is going to say now. It's all good saying that.
No, but Jermell Charlo is not humble enough to admit that he was spooked. He will go out. I mean, to be fair to Callum Smith, he never congratulated himself on going the distance. What he said is, I feel bad that I never gave off myself. And now, of course, he's gone up to light heavyweight. Although, to be fair to him, I didn't hear him using the weight as an excuse. But he's not said stuff like what Charlo said, well, at least I went the distance. He said, I'm disappointed because I never got going. I never gave off myself. I can do a lot better than that. That's the difference, you see. Difference in mindset. Whereas Charlo, he's so arrogant and audacious that he's actually congratulating himself on going the distance and not doing nothing. When he really should be ashamed of himself, like Terence Crawford said.
Ian, I see your question, bro. We'll talk about that offline. I don't really know too much. I haven't even really. I know you mentioned it yesterday, Dad, about the Tupac Shakur, the guy who was arrested for Tupac Shakur's murder. However many years?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'll talk about that with you offline, Ian. iBoxing Hub here says unpopular opinion. Amir Khan did better against Charlo Amir Khan did better than Charlo against Well, at least Amir Khan tried.
Yeah, I agree, because at the time when Amir Khan got stopped or knocked out, quite brutally actually, he was winning on a couple of the scorecards. He put in a great effort. It's just that everybody knew he was way too small, right? And he got badly knocked out. And I think as well, that knockout as well was, that was not a good look for Amir Khan. But in terms of his effort and what he put in, way better performance than Charlo. Like you said, Daryl, he laid that big fat egg, man. He should be ashamed of himself.
Well, let's talk about someone that did impress everybody last night, and that was obviously the Aussie guy that Daniel White says, Jay Opataya. Your thoughts on that victory last night? What did you think about Jay Opataya? The undercard as well. We could talk about that before we go. We'll start with the undercard actually, because Ugas against Barrios. That surprised me. Ugas he looks done to me.
Retire, man. Get out the game, bro.
And Lubin against, was that Lubin and Ramos fight? Was that fight controversial for you?
It was. I just want to say with the Ugas thing, when you see fighters like that getting dropped to the jab and getting serious, he got dropped by a big left hook by Mario Barrios, who's not a big puncher. Mario Barrios was coming up from light welterweight. He wasn't even a puncher at light welterweight. Yeah. He's come up to welterweight. I knew he would win because I did say in the preview.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, go back and look at the show. I said that, and I predicted how it would go. I said that he would have too much youthful zest for Ugas, and he would outbox him and get a points win. What I didn't know is that he would drop him and beat him up like that. But Ugas is clearly done, man. His feet are like they're stuck in quicksand, bro. His face looks old. He just looks like an old fighter, bro. Seriously. I mean, I know he's got the alopecia thing, so that contributes to it. But he looks old, bro. And the way his face is swelling up in fights now, that's a sure sign that he needs to get out of the game. It's actually quite sad with these guys because he's not going to retire. He's probably going to fight on and on and on till, he's mumbling his words and all that, bro. Like, he needs to get out of the game. Fair play to Mario Barrios. He won and he won well. I did predict that Barrios would win, but I was quite shocked at how bad Ugas looked. He needs to get out of boxing.
I didn't know Ugas was looking that bad. I thought he was going to win. Because I just thought, you know what? He hasn't fought since that. Has he fought once since that Spence fight?
I'm not sure, but I know that Spence absolutely beat the crap out of him. Yeah, and he's an old man, though. What is he, 37 years old now?
Yeah.
And he's not been active as well. He just, he's, like I said in the preview show, he's hit his Mount Rushmore with the fights with Sean Porter, which, to be fair, he got robbed. And then he beat Manny Pacquiao, which was a great win for him. But then he fought Errol Spence. And for a few rounds, he was competitive against Spence, and then Spence hurt him, and the rest is history. But he looks old, bro. Old. His feet, seriously, I've seen heavyweights with quicker footwork than him. And once I realised that there was nothing really coming back, man, he just totally outboxed him and beat him up. Dropped him heavy with the left hook. Should really have finished him, to be honest. But fair play to Mario Barrios. It was a good performance, and he moves on.
Totally agree with what Michael Maxwell says here. He's bang on like all day long. I can see that, and I can see Eddie. You know what? He's a quality fighter. He beat Pacquiao. He took Spence to distance. No, not a distance, but he did well against Spence. And like I could see them pushing that as Ben's next opponent. Wouldn't surprise me.
Possibly.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Or maybe even Mario Barrios, because Barrios is not a big puncher.
Ugas' eye started swelling up in the first round. He needs to retire, says Stefan.
That's it.
He also says Ugas pre-Spence beats Barrios. That's what I think as well.
Maybe.
Needs to call it a day. He had a solid career, particularly at 147. iBoxing Hub also says here it's time for Ugas to retire. That eye can't take too much more. Daniel says here Furman beat Barrios after about 2 years out the ring. So this doesn't look good for Ugas. I still can't believe he beat Pac-Man, to be honest.
Well, Pacquiao was old as well, you know what I mean? Father Time catches up with everybody, man, even the greats. Something that a lot of the great fighters don't seem to want to acknowledge, but it's the truth. And Ugas, you have to remember as well, Darry, he had a long decorated amateur career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He won the world championships as an amateur. He went to the Olympics, and then he's one of those Cubans that defected to America. So, you know what I mean? He's had a long, and not only that, he's probably had quite a hard life.
What about
I mean? He needs to pack it in, bro. These guys, but they won't though. That's the thing. It's quite sad. You know what I mean? He'll fight on. He'll still think he can win. And like you said, he's the name that he's got. He probably will end up fighting someone like Conor Benn. And Conor Benn, let's face it, would smoke Ugas. He'd probably wipe him out in about 3 or 4 rounds.
Really? Based on that last performance, I don't know. Like, he didn't knock out that other guy, did he?
Yeah, but that guy was tough, and he was big, though. That guy's a light middleweight. You know what I mean? That guy fought at middleweight, you know, Daryl, that he fought there. He's coming down in weight to fight Conor Benn. He towered over Conor Benn. They were like weight classes apart, and he's young and he's in his prime, and he was confident. All things that Ugas is not.
What about the other chief support, Erickson, Lubin, and Ramos? Man, that fight there, controversial decision according to many. Stefan, I know he's here. I think he had it close in that fight.
Yeah, I had it close. I didn't think it was the robbery that everybody else was saying. I mean, I can see why. I think the problem for Lubin in that fight is that he was backing up too much. But he was definitely landing punches. I mean, the commentary was so biased towards Ramos. You know what I mean? So when they were saying, oh, you know, he's ahead by this and that, I think some of the times as well with those commentators, they rely so much on their CompuBox stats. So they will say, yeah, such and such won that round, he threw 30 more jabs or this and that. But were they landing? Were they flick jabs? I mean, who landed the better punches in the round? But I could see why some people would have thought that Lubin lost because he spent too long on the back foot for me. But I mean, I didn't really have a massive problem with him being the winner.
Yeah, I have to see it again, really, because I was in and out of sleep trying to.
It could have gone either way. Could have gone either.
I was trying to stay up for the like, again that whole night, man, in and out of sleep. I didn't get to watch it properly, but Stefan said, "Look, iBoxing Hub here says the judges clearly mixed up which one was Lubin. No way, Ramos lost that fight. Wow." Stefan says here, "I had it a draw, but Lubin won his rounds clearer."
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
or 7-5 either way. The cards were poor though.
Yeah, to me, that was a 7-5 either way fight. And if you listen to the post-fight interview of Ramos, he wasn't that bothered about the decision. He said, well, maybe I should have done more. He actually said that. I took some rounds off. I should have pressed the fight more. He actually, so give him credit for that. He said that. And he said he'll learn from it and he'll come again, which I'm sure he will. I had no problem with Lubin getting the decision, I must admit.
Francisco says here, the commentators were hyping up Ramos way too much. Yeah, I still thought that he won. Usually controversial decisions favor the house fighter. Ramos was the house fighter in this one, so it's rather odd. And iBoxing Hub here says, have they released the judges' scorecards yet?
I can't remember the judges' scorecards, but I was surprised Lubin got the fight because I was kind of on the same mindset as Francisco, whereas Ramos is the guy that... I said it in your preview show, don't I, that Ramos, they're trying to steer him towards a world title. But on the evidence of what I saw yesterday, man, he's got quite a way to go because he is good. He's very strong, but he's quite mechanical. His defense is not that great. And he needs to work on things, man. He needs to work on things. I think Lubin was definitely the cuter fighter in there. Lubin threw the better combinations. His work was more varied. But I just think that Ramos, given the fact that he was the aggressor in the vast majority, I mean, even, I noticed Kevin Cunningham in Lubin's corner was telling him, man, you got to back this guy up. He was using some colourful language, as Kevin Cunningham always does. But he was right, though. He was saying, listen, man, you need to back this MFR up. He goes, and Lubin seemed to be in two minds because he was going, yeah, but I won that round, right? And Kevin Cunningham goes, yeah, you won the round, man. You know how it is, isn't it? You won the round, man, but you need to back this MFR up. Let your hands go, because he knew that if it was close, it was highly likely that Ramos would get it. In the end, it was close and Lubin got it. But I didn't have a massive problem with Lubin getting it.
Agree with Boxing Hub here. It says that Ramos should not, because he did make a fight. He said, yeah, Ramos
He
should not.
said, yeah, he said after the fight, he said, you know what, I'm not going to cry. I thought I did enough to win. I'm paraphrasing now. He goes, I did enough to win. But you know what, if I'm being honest, I took my foot off the gas. Next time I need to close the show. So fair play to him for being honest enough to own up to that.
Yep. Stefan says here, last one before we move on to the UK shows. Stefan says here, Ramos let it slip in the last 4 rounds. Lubin was comfortable when he stayed off the ropes.
Yeah. Yeah, but Kevin Cunningham was saying, keep the fight in the middle. You'll outbox this guy all day long, which he when he was in the middle, he was doing it.
Yeah. Well, what about those UK shows then, man? And we got to only start really on one fight, right? It had everyone talking, man. Everyone buzzing. Opetaya, that brilliant performance last night.
Oh, man. That guy.
Everyone talking.
He's a serious dude, bro.
Who's in the world? I don't think there's any doubt.
There's no doubt about it, mate. There's no doubt about it. That clown, what's his name? Marius Bradis was in the house. He didn't have on his McDonald's suit this time. And he was talking about, yeah, when I fought Opetaya before, I was ill. Next time. Listen, man. The guy beat you, fought 9 rounds with a broken jaw, Opetaya did. And listen, fair play to Bradis. He was the one who broke the jaw. But even so, what I'm saying is, the guy had a broken jaw and he still outpointed you. You know what I mean? And now he's got better and older and wiser. He would smoke Bradis now, man. This guy looks. I'm excited by him, man. Seriously, I reserved a little bit of judgment. I'd heard he was good, but I'd not seen him like that, so I didn't really want to comment too much. Suffice to say, everyone was saying how good he was, and all the reports we heard are accurate because. Fair play to Jordan Thompson. He didn't do what Charlo did and just turn up for the payday. He actually tried to win, but it's levels, bro. Opetaya was, even though he was way taller, I mean, 6'7", you know. Jordan Thompson.
The whole weight division above him.
Yeah, he must be the biggest he must be the biggest active cruiserweight in boxing. I mean, Richie Riakporhe and Lawrence Okolie are both massive, 6'4", 6'5", respectively. Jordan Thompson is another 2 inches taller than that. And he's not a string bean guy, actually. He's built.
No, muscular, yeah.
But I'm telling you now, man, you know what I mean? He was outclassed.
Yeah.
And Opetaya, he seems to have it all, man. Got good skills. He's a southpaw. He can punch. He's spiteful. He seems to have it all, bro. And he's confident. And he seems to have the right mindset, you know what I mean? A bit like Terence Crawford, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, I was very impressed. Very impressed.
I mean, our Boxing Hub says, you know, wants to see some unifications next. That would be ideal. But a lot of the talk yesterday was, well, I can see why Boxer pulled their fighters out against this guy. Against Opetaya. I guess I can see why as well now. You know, I can't see.
When I saw him do that to Jordan Thompson, that's the first thing that come from my mind. Now I know why Boxer, they got a lot of stick at the time for pulling Riakporhe out of it. But you know what? That's probably long-term a very clever move. Because I'm not being funny, man. I think he does the same to Riakporhe and Okolie and Billum Smith. All of them.
Yeah. Well, Francisco says here, Opetaya was impressive, but Thompson was rather stiff. His technique wasn't that good. Yeah,
I mean, listen, Jordan Thompson is I wouldn't say he's a novice pro, but he's only had X amount of fights. He didn't have a big amateur career. You can tell he's still very green in certain regards. But he does have the equalizer. He's a big puncher and he's a big guy. But the thing that impressed me about Opetaya is that from the bell one, man, he just went in there and just totally took control of the fight. He didn't even have a look at Jordan Thompson. And like I said, Jordan Thompson came into this fight with a reputation as being a big puncher. But Opetaya showed him no respect. He just went in there, man. He could have ended it in the first round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was like totally dominant. Beat him up and then knocked him out. Exceptional performance.
Any additional comments you want to make before we go on last night's shows?
Big up to Caroline Dubois. Her fight was pretty good. It's quite entertaining, actually. She dropped the girl 2 or 3 times, but that doesn't tell the whole story of the fight because the girl caught Caroline Dubois with some big shots. You know what I mean? And so that was a good little fight for her. I mean, she's got a strap. It's a lightly regarded IBO title, but it's a good fight for her career, though, because she was caught, man. She was chin checked a couple of times. And on one of those occasions when she got hit, I wouldn't say she wobbled, but it definitely got her attention. But Caroline looks good. I've got a big up Vidal Riley. He looked good as well. I think he won the English title.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met Vidal Riley a couple of times. Nice guy, man. I'm pleased for him. But the guy he's fighting, Corliss, didn't really put up much resistance, to be honest. He looked a bit shook. But yeah, maybe he was in the same training camp as Charlo and Mo Farah. You know what I mean?
We'll wrap it up there for the night, man. I don't think there's we've got a show. Is there any shows next week in October? Like the first week of October, is there any shows to look forward to next?
Leewood and Warrington, isn't it?
So is that this week or is it next week? I thought it might have been the week after, but yeah.
I'm sure it's on the 7th. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, obviously we'll cover that next week in the show. There are a few more shows to look forward to in October as well, particularly Joshua Buatsi and Dan Aziz. That's coming up soon. Yeah. So, there's still some big fights to look forward to this year. Of course, we've got the news about Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. It's looking like that will happen, but let's wait and see until they get in the ring. But, a lot to talk about on the show this week. Zerdo and Joe Smith Jr. is also taking place as well. So can't forget about that one. So, still a few more fights to look forward to. Last one here from me on Jermell Charlo and Canelo. Very disappointing. Went out there, laid an egg. Not really interested in Jermell Charlo, man. I've lost a bit of respect for him, to be honest, because of his attitude. And, I just don't really... He's a bully. Like, let's just be honest.
He is a bully.
He's a bully. Do you know what I mean?
No, because I summed it up earlier when I said he reminds me of that guy, the local bad man, that you take him out of his comfort zone and put him amongst some other bad men, and they shrink. That's him. Yeah. Because, like you said, when he fought Tony Harrison and other guys in his career, he's been running his mouth and acting up and being aggressive and all that. You know what I mean? As soon as he came up against Canelo, man, the man was on some like kumbaya stuff. You know what I mean? Peace.
Yeah, he's a bully. He's a bully, man, and he got what was coming to him. You know what I mean? Shout out also to Otto Wallin as well, man. I forgot to say before we go, he won last night as well over
Murat Gasser.
Yeah, that's right. So
that's a good win for Wallin, actually.
Yeah, very good win for him. So we'll chop it up a bit more during the week, but last one from you before we go.
Yeah, man. It was a varied week of boxing because you had the big fight, but that disappointed. I'm pretty sure everyone would say that. Even Canelo fans would have to admit that was a huge anticlimax. And even the undercard fights were not that good. They looked good on paper, but they weren't nothing to get excited about, if I'm being honest, although I did watch them. But Jai Opetaia stands out from the weekend, man. That guy, I'm really looking forward to seeing his next fight because I was just so impressed with him. Not just when I like his demeanor. He's quite confident without being too arrogant. I mean, I think he used the phrase, what was the phrase he kept using in the lead up to the fight? I'm not here to disrespect, I'm here to gain respect. Well, he certainly gained respect this weekend because anyone who saw that performance, you had to, you know when you've watched a really good fighter, man, because social media starts buzzing. Everyone's like, yo, did you see Opetaia, man? Wow, that guy. And Tony Bellew, you know what he's like, man. He was getting really flowery with the words. But, you know what I mean? I can't blame him, man, because he looked punch perfect yesterday. And you know what impressed me as well is that, and this is where I do give Jordan Thompson some credit. So Jordan Thompson was losing badly, but I think in one of the rounds he thought, Charles, let me go and have a go at this guy. And he did land a big right hand on Opetaia. And as we said, Jordan Thompson, the one thing everyone has agreed about him is that he's a big guy who can punch. And he landed that shot, and Daryl, the man did not even flinch. In fact, what he did do was make him come back harder. When someone get hit like that and come and react that way, you know that guy is a real fighter.
For sure.
You know, so.
Ended there with Stefan. He says 4-0 away wins aren't for everyone. Of course, we did our thing over the weekend, beating Bournemouth. But shout out to Stefan because he's a West Brom fan. They also won 4-0 away from home. So
big up to Luton, man.
Big up West Brom. Big up to Luton, of course, beating Everton away from home. So
the first Premier League win.
Yeah, good weekend, really, all round.
That shocked me, you know. I must admit that shocked me because Everton are coming off the back of a few good results prior to that game yesterday. So for Luton to go up there when your boy Garth Crooks has been saying they won't win a game all season and they might as well go home now and all that, that was one for him to chew on, you know what I mean? Fair play to Luton, man. At least, unlike Charlo, if they're going to go down, they're going to go down fighting, aren't they?
Exactly that. But listen, guys, enjoy your Sunday evening, man. Thank you all for tuning in. And big up to iBoxing Hub. Yeah, we need to get a collab going for sure. We'll sort that out, brother. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week, man. Peace out.